Hey, so I just wanted to continue with the, remember we were talking about the social units. Um, so we have the tribe. 10,000 years ago we had the tribe, and then technology comes in. So the tribe was our basic micro social unit and basic macro social unit. There was nothing bigger, no political unit that controlled the tribe. It was just them. So, but then as technology came in, agriculture came in, we settled, and the family started to become the basic social unit of society. And so we have smaller micro social units and bigger macro social units. So now we had political structures, bigger ones. And then with industrialization, the same thing. Families start getting smaller, like women's lib movement, everything. Everyone, just families started getting smaller. Less kids. Families starting getting smaller. And then now even more. Families getting smaller and smaller. The average household size keeps on getting smaller as technology advances. And that goes not only with time, like as we see throughout history, but in space. So if there's more, like in the US, there's less people per household than in, Mexico, because of this same phenomena. That people want to choose for themselves. That's the main drive in that. Because the social units are bigger, micro-social units are bigger because they need to be bigger. Like, people need each other to survive. The tribes, they needed each other to survive. They couldn't go off alone and survive alone. And then they needed bigger families to survive. They needed kids to work the land. They needed, when you got old, who was your social security? It was your family. There was no government going to give you social security. So you depended on your family a lot more and on your communities. Now, you're just an individual. And so we become more free. Like, we can do more things on a micro social unit, like within our families. We're more free now. We can choose to be who we want to be now. We don't have to be our culture. We don't have to be whoever your parents were, your grandparents were, whatever their professions were, whatever their religion was, whatever their religion, culture, language, profession. All that stuff was kind of determined for you at birth. Now it's not. Now you can do whatever the hell you want. And so that's a good thing. That's more freedom, right? So that's awesome. But on the other hand, what's happened to our food, our water, our means of living, our protection? All that, we're dependent on these macro structures like governments, big corporations. We depend on them. How are you going to get water? You're going to go out to the stream? No, you're going to get it from the local public utility, right? And there's a price and blah, blah, blah. So we become more independent on the microsocial unit, but less, we become more independent on a microsocial level, but more dependent on a macrosocial level. So we're still not free. That's the thing. We're still not free. Like, we can't become free. We're still not there. After thousands of years of trying, all these revolutions, all these, mostly political revolutions, through violence. And so all of this, it's like a cultural, the spirit is of a culture, like a human culture. And so now we're here. And the thing is that there's nowhere else to go. Like you can't, our households can't get any smaller. Like, they're just becoming smaller and smaller. A lot of people live alone. Older people are very lonely. You know, there's a lot of loneliness in the modern world, especially now with technology. There's even more and more and more isolation, social isolation, which is everyone's kind of choosing their own thing, doing their own thing, but everyone's a lot more isolated than before. The sense of community is like leaving. The sense of, you know, let's get together, let's do this together, is just vanishing. And so there's nowhere else to go. Like we can't keep on going the way it's going. Like something's got to happen, something's got to break, something. And the thing is that so power structures also are like, we're becoming more controlling of our own lives. Like we want more and more control of our own individual lives, and that's why it's hard for us to live together with people, because, you know, you're like if you have a bunch of roommates or something, you know, it's just hard because everyone wants to do things their own way, and so the sense of cooperation is like gone. Like everyone's just like, I prefer to live alone. See ya, dude. And everyone just kind of does their own thing. But that same attitude is also seen in big government, in corporations, where they just care about their own agenda, you know. And so it's like, people blame a lot the government, they blame corporations, they blame others for a lot of the downfalls in our society. But it's not their fault, it's our fault. It's the culture. Like the culture is a tree, and there's a seed in the culture, and then the leaders and the people the CEOs or the presidents or the leaders of all these big institutions that control a lot of what society does are just like fruit on the tree. They just grow on trees. You know, if you have I mean, how many people would love to be CEO of Apple or of, you know, McDonald's, or, you know, you have 100,000 people in line wanting to be CEO, doing the things that a CEO does. That is the need for growth. So we'll get into that later. But anyway, that's kind of what's happened in the last 10,000 years. Micro, you know, we would go tribe, family, individual, getting smaller and smaller, and then the macro units go tribe, you know, towns, villages, countries, and now it's like European Union, you know, all these mega control structures. And they're exerting more and more control on the populations as well, because that's what we're doing on a micro level. We're exerting more and more control over our own lives too. So it's kind of a tricky situation we're in, but it's not sustainable. That's the thing. It's not sustainable. The world we live in and the spirit of the culture in which we live in is not sustainable. And so that's why there's a need of a revolution. There's a need for sustainability on Earth. And that is the big thing that we've been trying for so long, but we've never achieved it. But I think that the consciousness is changing of people. Not only are we becoming more self-reliant, but we're becoming more conscious of the pain and suffering that we cause on others. You know, not just self-absorbed. And so, anyway, it's coming. But we do need a shift in consciousness of the population and of individuals. And so, anyway, what should happen, so we needed to be together before in our micro-social units, but as soon as the necessity dissipates, as soon as there's no need to be together, like with technology, then we become smaller. And then the need dissipates again, we become smaller and smaller and smaller. So what should happen now? What should happen is that, let me just tell you a story. There's like TV sets in the 50s or, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s. There was a scarcity of TV sets in neighborhoods, so people would get together and watch TV. But people didn't have a lot of choices. They would just watch whatever the owner wanted to watch. So, a lot of people would get together, watch the ball game, or watch, I don't know, some show that everyone liked. And so there's more of a sense of community because people needed each other, right? But they had less choice because they couldn't watch whatever channel they wanted. But then as everyone got their own TV sets, they just started watching whatever they want in their houses and in their bedrooms and now on their phones. And so you don't even need anyone anymore. You don't need to get together. There's no need to be together, so we're isolated. But what the ideal is that we want to be together. Like, the ideal is not that we would need to be together. Like for survival, it's that we don't need to be together, but we want to. Like we want to be together. So what should happen is that the microsocial units, as soon as this change in consciousness happens, they start getting bigger. In what form, I don't know. Like it could be, family units change and they become bigger. We start, we don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Like households are going to start increasing in numbers as consciousness shifts, because there's more of a sense of cooperation, and that's going to spread throughout the institutions as well, and decentralization is going to become more prominent. So anyway, that's kind of the whole thing about the microsocial units, macrosocial units, and the trend of the last 10,000 years, and then how it's supposed to trend back after this big shift in civilization. So I'm going to leave it there for today. We're going to talk a lot about like good and evil, which is one of the main, if you can understand evil and what evil is and what good is, then you can, we're halfway there as far as making that shift. Just understanding what reality is, what's real, what's illusion, and then having the faith in that reality, and then just living the reality. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk a lot about, there's just so many things to go over. So we'll see you guys. Bye.